Do you have a game that you used to love, but it seems that no one you know played it, or even worse, no one ever heard about it? Well, I do. Here is my list of 10 forgotten games that don't deserve to be lost. My last Final Fantasy that I really enjoyed was Final Fantasy X, and I recently found out why. This was the last Final Fantasy made by the original creator of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi. The father of Final Fantasy directed an animated movie in 2001, Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within. The movie didn't do well and was considered one of the biggest box office bombs, with estimated losses over $94 million. With the disastrous launch, Sakaguchi left Square Enix and secluded himself in his house in Hawaii for 3 years. After dealing with whatever he had to deal with, he came back to the game industry and founded an independent studio, Mistwalker. With the most unusual investment for a JRPG, Microsoft, they developed Lost Odyssey, an Xbox exclusive JRPG that I believe is much closer in spirit to the original Final Fantasy games than any Final Fantasy game since 2001. The game follows the adventure of a 1,000-year-old immortal, Kain, who survives a meteor crash on a battlefield.
When we met before, were we enemies? Or allies?
After the battle, he loses all his memories. Mistwalker Studios had an ambitious vision of telling a mature story about the passage of time, family and war. Gameplay-wise, it is as classic as possible JRPG. If you don't like how the recent Final Fantasy games switched the gameplay and moved away from turn-based combat, here you'll feel right at home. It is as traditional turn-based as it gets. Beyond the main game story, the game also features 30 short stories detailing Kain's life before the events of him losing memory called 1,000 Years of Dreams.
They all lived happily ever after.
Imagine the developers of Dead Space making their own version of God of War. That game is Dante's Inferno. This is an action game based on the poem Divine Comedy from the 14th century. The poem narrates Dante's travel through 3 realms: Inferno, Purgatorio, and Paradiso. The game covers Dante's journey through Inferno. In Dante's Inferno, they reimagined many aspects of the poem, with the first and most important one being Dante himself. Instead of a poet, he is portrayed as a seasoned crusader who has committed many sins during the Third Crusade. The game begins with Dante being stabbed by an assassin, where he meets death and is sentenced to damnation.
Everlasting damnation for your sins.
Refusing to accept his fate, Dante defeats death and takes away death's weapon. Returning home to Florence, he discovers his wife dead. Her soul is dragged in front of him to hell. Dante without hesitation follows her. Dante's objective in this game is to find his wife and rescue her from hell. Each circle of hell corresponds to a different punishment for the ones who are condemned to it. If you enjoyed the older God of War games, you're in for a good time. The game offers solid and grotesquely violent hack-and-slash combat. Unfortunately, the game ends on a cliffhanger, and although a sequel was planned, it never came to life. Have you ever felt tired of killing endless hordes of zombies in gaming? Join the opposite team. The 2005 game Stubbs the Zombie is the one and only game where you can participate in a zombie apocalypse on the other side as someone who causes it.
Welcome to Punch Bowl, a city built for the space age.
Set in a retro-futuristic world, the game follows Stubbs, who rises from his grave and begins the zombie apocalypse in a utopian city in Pennsylvania. The game premise is be the zombie, kick ass, and take brains. And the game delivers. It is a short game where you get to destroy humankind and raise your own legion of death. It also features some of the best written zombie dialogues ever.
Brain, 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 brain.
Best of all, for some unknown reason, it was quietly remastered in 2021, so it runs very well on any modern gaming device.
My brain!
In the 90s, there used to be a very popular genre called adventure games. These games were heavily narrative-driven. The game loop typically involved around exploring different areas, picking up clues and objects, and once the puzzle is solved, you could advance through the story.
Buenos dias.
Grim Fandango might be the best adventure game ever made. This game offers a unique view of the afterlife. Set in a 50s-inspired retro-futuristic land of the dead, souls must journey to the land of the eternal rest. Good souls can travel by luxury vehicles such as cruise ships and express trains, while those who led unkind lives must journey on foot.
It could be very, very dangerous.
Which could take 4 years or longer. Many who opted to journey on foot decide to give up and start a new life in the land of the dead.
My name's Manny Calavera. I'm your new travel agent.
The game follows Manuel Manny Calavera, a travel agent for the Department of Death. His job is to assign travel mentors for clients based on their lives on Earth.
Manuel, are you in love with her?
It has murders, gangsters, revolution fighters, love, betrayal and intrigue. It's got it all. It was the first 3D puzzle adventure game developed by LucasArts, and unfortunately, it was a financial failure that led to the closure of LucasArts Adventure Department. It appears on many game ranking lists as one of the best games ever made.
No skeletons in our closet.
Noire was published by Rockstar Games and developed by Tim Bondi. For most of the game, you follow Cole Phelps, an LAPD detective.
Can you tell me what happened?
Throughout the game, you collect evidence and interrogate subjects, engaging in all the type of traditional detective work usually seen in movies. What sets this game apart from others is how they implemented motion capture. Noire developers worked on their own proprietary motion capture technology, allowing them to capture more details from actors' expressions. Based on their expressions, you as a player have to decide if the suspect is telling the truth or hiding something. It has a good story and is a very well made, immersive detective experience. Unfortunately, the game doesn't allow you to change the course of its story, regardless of how good or bad of a cop you are, but the experience is still worth a playthrough. It's probably the closest you can get to a detective experience in a video game.
You keep digging and asking questions until you get to the truth.
Flower is a game that immerses you in a powerful and emotional arc. The whole game, you're in control of just a small flower leaf. In Flower, you ride the wind, touching different buds in nature, adding blooms to your flying bouquet. On the surface, it sounds like a very simple game. There is no combat or score to achieve. You simply roam through the land, riding the wind, and interacting with the nature. It has a very carefully crafted soundtrack that is a crucial part of the experience. Every interaction with the world corresponds with a note. The developers aim to create a game that will evoke a range of positive emotions, rather than the traditional gaming fun where enjoyment comes from dealing with obstacles. It's a short game that you can complete within an hour, and despite its simple premise, it tells a deep story through its gameplay. Legacy of Kain is one of the most beloved forgotten franchises. It was especially popular in the early 2000s. Legacy of Kain is a series of games telling the story of Emperor Kain and his son Raziel.
I am Raziel, firstborn of his lieutenants.
Raziel, the strongest of Kain's sons, she becomes the first vampire to grow his wings. Kain, as a jealous emperor, decides that no one should ever become stronger than him, and instead of rewarding his son for his achievement, he cuts off his wings and orders his brothers to throw him into the abyss. Raziel's fate was worse than death. He went for a century of agony and endless burn, until one day he gets freed from the abyss by an ancient force that gives him the opportunity to avenge himself.
The old hunger has left me. I have no desire for blood.
The agony of the abyss changes him into a different creature. He is no more a vampire, but from now on, he is a reaver of souls, and to satisfy his new hunger, he has to consume souls of his enemies.
Answer me, little brother, or I will beat an answer from your horrid lips.
Unfortunately, it is one of the games that is very hard to run on modern platforms, and probably the best way to play these games is on an older PlayStation 2. It has a decent combat, painful early 3D platforming mechanics, but despite it all, it has a unique and interesting world.
Did it trouble you to murder your brothers?
Did it trouble you when you ordered me into the abyss?
We've all heard the wonderful tale of Alice in Wonderland. Imagine if Wonderland existed in the mind of a young woman who lost her family in a fire and is now locked up in a psychiatric hospital. That world is the nightmare created by American McGee. The Dark Wonderland is a representation of Alice's mental trauma, and to heal in the real world, she must save the Wonderland.
I broke this world and only I can repair it.
Even though the first game was already dark, the sequel, Madness Returns, gets even darker. It deals with really messed up themes such as child abuse and human trafficking.
Seeking refuge from the wicked world. Perhaps things only look like they've gone to hell.
But it's a game that looks insanely well. It's made on Unreal Engine 3 and they went for an artistic look instead of realism. It's impressive to see how the art style of these games holds up nowadays. The second game had a lot of improvements from the original. It's a great action platformer set in a unique world. There are a few shortcomings, such as fewer weapons and lack of bosses, but it's still a great sequel.
Perfect.
For years, American McGee has attempted to create a third installment in the series. However, EA, the holder of the publishing rights, not only denies him financing for the game, but also refuses to grant him the chance to seek funding from a third party or sell the publishing rights. While Ninja Theory is known nowadays mostly for Hellblade, they developed quite a few great games that unfortunately have been forgotten. My favorite one is Enslaved Odyssey to the West. The game is set in a post-apocalyptic world following a global war. Only the remnants of humanity are left, while the world is filled with active war machines from the war times hunting down whatever is left of humans. Doesn't that remind you by the way of Horizon Forbidden West? I'm pretty sure that game was heavily inspired by Enslaved. The game follows the story of a man called Monkey. He is trapped on a slave ship, and when he attempts to escape, well, let's just say things don't go as planned. The ship crashes. When he wakes up, he finds himself with a slave headband placed on him by Trip, the second survivor who managed to get out in a safety pod.
Looks like I don't have a choice.
If anything happens to her heartbeat, the headband will explode and Monkey will die. Trip forces him to escort her on an adventure across post-apocalyptic New York to bring her to her village. Monkey, left without any options, agrees and embarks on the journey.
And me and Trip what? You know, we together.
Throughout the game, they will have a very interesting development of their relationship, as well as we will learn more about the life before the end of the world and its effects on the current events. It is loosely based on the Journey to the West novel, one of the most influential novels in Chinese literature that influenced a lot of modern stories, such as Dragon Ball. It has fun, fast-paced action combat, climbing, and fun cloud riding sequences. Originally the game was pitched as a CGI movie, and you can clearly see why. It has great character animations and still looks great for a game from the 360 generation. The story was written by Alex Garland, who is the writer of the movies Ex Machina and 28 Days Later. It is a well-told story with fun and engaging gameplay. It also has a great ending that surprised me in a good way. It's a great game, but unfortunately it was a commercial flop.
I'm not the kind of guy to go mustering in. Easy. You can hear every word we say.
Remember Lionhead Studios in Fable? Before Fable, Lionhead Studios and the famous Peter Molyneux had one very special game that seems no one remembered it.
Your arrival was foretold! The prophecy has come true!
Black and White is a video game like no other. The player takes on the role of a god ruling over islands populated with different tribes. Nearly every action, or lack thereof, affects how the god is perceived by its followers.
We're your conscience. We're part of you.
You can be an evil god or a good one, or something in between, whatever you desire. Depending on your actions, your temples will look differently, as well as the land, and even the music changes accordingly to the player's actions. The god's power grows by how much the villagers pray and sacrifice to the god. For the followers to pray, they require food, sleep, and shelter. The player can influence villagers' actions by either throwing fireballs and terrorizing them, or treating them kindly by assisting them with day-to-day tasks. One of the most iconic features of the game is the animal-like creature that serves as the god's avatar in the world. The creature starts out small and grows as the game progresses. It also needs to eat, be trained, and rest. Each creature is different. For example, the ape is smart and a fast learner, while the tiger is strong but takes a while to learn anything. It is a game like no other that is unfortunately stuck in a copyright hell, making it very tricky to get running on any modern gaming device. And those were the 10 forgotten games that don't deserve to be lost. Have you played any of these games? I personally miss Black and White the most, but if you have any games that you missed or perhaps develop an interest from this video, please do let me know and feel free to share in the comments. Despite all of that, thank you for watching and I hope you'll have a wonderful day.